got to get it
conversation. You got your way.
reposted on our Facebook on Purple Heart Homes because Brad is
You
out.
know how to do that?
I do. I just have to get in there real quick before the
Devin,
actual
you
show
look
starts.
weird today.
I do not look weird. I just dressed, normally for
You dress every day.
work.
Yeah.
About a minute 15.
I mean, I
dress
wore a
for
hat. I did wear a hat. But
Did you do your own blush?
blush? What are you talking about? It's cold outside.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little cold.
Oh, Lord have mercy. All right.
I don't know what are y'all referring to, but oh man, here we go.
Do you have a line of questioning that you want to do with our esteemed guest today?
Well, I just thought
I got a lot.
General.
I bet he's got a lot of
questioning.
stories he remembers about how horrible I was when I was 17 years old. So, I mean,
We'll tell stories about Brad.
Statute of limitations is out on most of that stuff, Jim, but not all of it.
Seconds.
Oh my
30
gosh!
seconds.
I thought we would do the normal stuff, and then I would gladly hear some terrible stories about Brad.
Oh, there's plenty of them.
Do y'all have a project of the week?
All right.
We don't
Microphone's
really,
off.
because
Low temperature right around 31 degrees. This has been your weather forecast from the WSIC Weather Center.
Purple Heart Homes presents Putting the Pieces Back Together, a forum for veterans and the community to connect. Here are your hosts, veterans John Gallina and Brad Borders.
I think I just ought to call this the Devil Dog Santa Show.
Devil Dog Santa.
Devil
Whatever
Dog
do
Santa.
you mean?
Santa Dog, the Santa Dog. That's your new name, the Santa Dog.
What
What are you doing? You're playing with your phone. What are you doing? We're having
I'm
it's a
setting up
live
Facebook.
radio program.
Half of our
This
staff
show
is
is-
out this week, and
this
I'm just
is
trying
live.
to perform
This-
extra duties.
Well, you should have done that 3 minutes before the show started, and not
It
1
wasn't
minute after.
available 3 minutes before the show, Brad. Hey, we're getting extra sassy on this week's
Yeah,
episode.
sassy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you are Santa for those that can't see on the radio.
I am
Devin
Santa.
is in his festive attire. The
I'm-
Devil Dog Santa, the
I'm
Santa
just
dog, if you will.
wearing a red sweater, like
Yeah, just
lots
like
of
every
folks-
day.
People
Every day.
people wear red
Well,
sweaters.
he
this time
has
of year.
powder in his beard.
I'm just going
There's
gray.
powder.
It's gray. I'm
in
going
his
gray.
pow-
Overnight.
And he has, and Santa's supposed to have rosy cheeks, and you have literal. Where do you keep rouge in your pocketbook?
Rouge.
Yeah.
It's cold outside. My cheeks are chapped.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's what's happening.
Well,
right
in case
now.
you didn't know what you tuned into, this is Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. You can find out what we do each and every day for veterans by going to our website at phhusa.org. And we're live here on WSIC. That's News Talk Now.
there's your $18 for those you don't know.
that's
Brad
right.
has negotiated.
Justin has, I have yet to get my check.
$18.
You know,
Every
it is
time he
Christmas
says
time,
that.
and I heard you're getting a raise.
Did you hear?
You're getting a raise?
It's
Oh
up to
my gosh.
$20.
Up to $20.
wow.
Man, I was negotiating for $18.15, but now that I'm getting
This
20,
is inflation's pretty high.
it is
Brad.
pretty
It's
high. It's pretty
Oh,
fantastic.
Good Christmas
John
present.
Gallina is not with us. He has been arrested.
That's
by
right.
The Idaho
Right.
County Sheriff's Department.
And if you missed that, you can go back on Facebook or YouTube and check out that episode.
They served a warrant on him last week in the middle of our show.
I cannot believe that. That was
An
that's pretty
outstanding
crazy.
warrant for uttering is the charge.
Yeah,
Uttering.
uttering.
No, it's not uttering. It was communicating threats against Marine Corps moms.
Oh yeah, I'd say. Well, I don't know what the warrant said, but I'm pretty sure it's out there on social media. If
It
anybody
is
wanna
out
read
there.
that.
So John has not been detained by law enforcement.
Not
He is
really.
previously detained by some busyness in life, and he's traveling tomorrow.
He is.
He's going to Las Vegas.
What?
Yeah,
Las
going to
Vegas?
He's going to Vegas, and
Whatever for?
so as it turns out, Owens Corning, one of our big benefactors, is and they manufacture roofing products, is bringing John out to Las Vegas.
Oh, that's right. And he's got a special item with him as well, I believe. Right?
I don't know.
Well, you don't know about the
No,
special
I
item.
don't.
Oh,
Why
I
don't
guess
you
I'll
tell
tell
me
you
what
about the
that is?
special item.
What is that?
He has a guitar signed by Darius Rucker
Hootie?
from Hootie and the
Hootie signed a
Blowfish,
guitar?
but it's now Darius Rucker and the Carolina Gray Boys.
It's no longer Hootie and the Blowfish.
Well, he's got a whole new band. He's had that band for a long time. He
the Carolina Grayfish?
Gray Boys.
Oh, the Gray Boy. The Gray Boy. Because they're like getting older and they're gray?
I actually don't know why they chose that name. Maybe
Why don't
we
you
should
do a little research on your phone? You're playing with it right now.
I was looking it up actually. Thank you for pointing that out for all those folks who aren't on Facebook Live who can't see me.
I told John if he's going to Las Vegas, evidently the new U2 show out there in the Sphere. They have U2 does like multiple shows in Vegas. They're like a Vegas act now. Like, you know how Elvis used to do? You
They're
didn't.
called residencies.
Is that what that's called? Thank you, Miss Tammy.
Residencies. I did not know
They have,
that.
U2
Wow.
has a residency.
Not just a pretty face. There,
No, not just a pretty face. She's
Adele
also
has one.
Really?
Carrie Underwood has one.
Outstanding.
Miranda Lambert has one.
Wow.
Miranda Lambert. All right. Yeah. So,
Just a wealth of information. I didn't know about
I know
any of this. Yeah.
she also got a new pair of tennis shoes. She got a pair of tree-torn tennis shoes. Do you remember tree-torns, Mr. Jim? So evidently Reese Witherspoon was wearing this particular
She's brought 'em
style
back.
of tree-torns, and she brought tree-torns back, and Tammy had to have them, and they are fabulous.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
are you wearing them today?
I have them on right now.
Oh, look at that. There they are. The
Wow.
tree-torns made their way here.
Well,
So,
since you said our guest's name, we should introduce him.
we should. And it's going to be a fabulous show, and I'm really excited he's here. And I've known this gentleman all my life, and I grew up. My dad used to talk about you, Jim. My dad would, there would be some kind of family function. We did church together and family functions together. And Jim's children are my age, but my dad would repeat this phrase. I don't know if he ever told you this, but he would tell me this all the time. He'd go, "You see, that's Jim Lawton." And I go, yeah. You know, he was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam. And he probably told me that 100 times.
So for those of you who don't know, Jim Lawton is retired helicopter pilot from Vietnam.
So, Jim, it's great to have you here.
Yeah, that's great to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do have one question, Jim. Before we get started too far into it, why are gas prices so high?
Well, actually, I've been out of that business for 8 years, and it's funny you mentioned that because the only other time I've ever been on the radio, I was in here being grilled about gas prices when I was in the gas business.
Devin just picked up where they left
And
Welcome back.
somebody said, "Why are you charging whatever it was, $3 a gallon?" I said, "Because I can't get $3.05 a gallon. That's why I'm charging $3." So
Jim, start off telling us a little bit about yourself.
I thought he had a break in about whatever.
Yeah, were you from here?
No, I'm from the coast of South Carolina, Georgetown. Grew up in Georgetown. Went to Davidson after I left Georgetown. And after Davidson, I was in ROTC, learned how to fly at the Statesville Airport, ROTC flight program.
No kidding.
And then went into the Army. Spent 3 years in the Army, came out, came back to North Carolina, was with First Union Bank for 10 years, ended up in Statesville and bought into a oil jobbership and convenience stores. And we sold all those 8 years ago. So,
What you been doing with yourself since then?
well, my son is in the scale business, industrial scales, what have you, and I work with him just for something to do.
Yeah.
Do the receivables, payables, and bank stuff.
There you go.
But it gives me something to do. It gets me out of the house and takes a couple hours a day.
You still tell him he doesn't know what he's doing?
I
Or your
don't
son?
say a thing.
Okay.
I don't say a thing because he does know what he's doing. He knows more about it than I do.
Yeah.
So.
My Jack Border's favorite line to me was, "Son, what were you thinking?"
Yeah.
It's a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because he
No,
knows
no,
the
no,
answer. I
I
wasn't
don't.
thinking much. So
I try to, if he asks me for advice, I will tender the advice. But I
That's
don't.
right.
I don't
don't offer
volunteer
it.
advice.
You don't
no,
offer
I
it.
don't. I don't offer it. So
Yeah. Well, we're coming up to a break, and when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about Jim's service in Vietnam, flying helicopters and all that, and talk about transition a little bit and what's that like. And what was it like coming back from all of that? And we're really glad that everybody's here today, and thank you for tuning in to Putting the Pieces Back Together. It's presented by Purple Heart Homes. You can find out more about us at our website, phhusa.org. And we are live in the WSIC studios. That's News Talk Now. We'll be back in
You're
just
not
a few
getting
minutes.
That
That's
$20.
It's $20.
That's not happening.
Yeah, it's $20 coming my way. Merry Christmas.
There's more Putting the Pieces Back Together with John Gallina and Brad Borders on the way from the new 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
All right, so we had 8 live viewers.
We had a lot more when the sheriff
John was
showed
getting
up.
arrested.
Yeah, when John was getting arrested.
Well, I mean, maybe we ought to do that every week.
I think that's a great idea.
Next week we'll have the SWAT team posted outside, like a flashbang.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, and they just come raid the studio.
Well, I can't afford the bail every week. So
Not every week. Just once a month.
Well, yeah,
just
maybe.
once a
That's,
month.
I'm going to have to get a raise or something.
Yeah.
Jim, just so you know, this is the un-FCC regulated portion of our show.
So if you were thinking any profane words to say, this is the
This
time
is
to
the
do it.
yeah.
you mean during the break or on?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can say,
we're
yeah,
live
like
on
if you-
Facebook.
So
yeah.
one of the classic examples of this is like one of my buddies from 3rd Special Forces Group was on here a few months back, and it was like we were having just a conversation in a team room somewhere, and he just let them fly, right? And then during the break, I would go, "Hey, man, when we're like live, you can't say that. Oh yeah, right." Right, and then we go back live, and he goes, "Mother," like, "Oh, man." So I kept expecting for Justin to call and go, I got a $1,300 fine because of you guys. So
when does Brad get hit with that fine? I'm just wondering.
that's coming out of my News Talk Now stipend?
That's why you've not gotten your check
That's
yet.
right.
You're
Because
still
of all
in
of your FCC.
You have
fines.
arrears. You have arrears.
What?
Arrears.
Arrears.
Arrears. That's what they call that when you owe money and then you have to pay it back.
I think you're just making stuff up.
I mean, I do make stuff up sometimes. I'm not
Okay.
gonna-
All right. Well,
But in this case,
in this case, what does that stand for?
I
Does
don't.
that stand for something? You're literally making a word up.
In arrears? No.
No, he's not.
I'm not. Thanks. I'll receive that.
Listen,
from you,
I'm
Jim.
not.
Jim's credible. Jim's credible.
Jim's credible?
Yeah.
Wow. I have no credibility. I'm
Hey, we're
not
up to
the
13.
You're in arrears. You're past due.
past due. There you
Past
go.
due.
Okay.
Yeah.
That shows how much I know about business.
Well,
yeah.
it's
Probably why I'm
Mike's
on the
off in
radio.
30.
That's probably what. Yeah.
Yeah, probably while I'm on the radio. So awesome.
Those who can't do talk. I guess. I don't
Oh
know.
my heavens! Oh, have mercy. Yeah. So.
Oh my gosh.
Well, good. What do you got? We got 30 seconds before we go back live. Okay.
So,
About 10 or so.
Okay.
20 seconds.
20 seconds now.
all right.
I
20
mean,
seconds.
you'll lead us back in.
I mean, do I?
Do it, Santa.
Sure,
Well,
absolutely.
let Tammy lead us back in. Tammy said no. Tammy said no.
You want
All
to
right, Mike's off. Here we go.
be Sam?
WSIC.
Putting the Pieces Back Together continues now. Here are your hosts, John Gallina and Brad Borders on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes, with your sometimes host, Brad Borders, and fill in me, Devil Dog Devin.
Santa dog. Santa baby. They wrote a song about you.
Did they?
Yeah,
how
Santa
sweet. You know, I
baby.
don't know why you keep telling the viewers that I'm Santa
But-
right now.
Well, I don't know. The viewers.
The viewers.
Well,
Oh,
the,
yeah.
the viewers know that you're Santa.
The viewers
The
do, I
viewers
guess.
are well
the
aware
listeners.
that you are absolutely Santa today. So
I'm not very
the
bright. Have I
listeners-
mentioned that before?
The listeners need to know that you are Santa, and he is. So what kind of shenanigans you got planned for Christmas Eve there, Santa?
Shenanigans for Christmas Eve. I don't really, I don't know what we're going to do this year. Yeah, so none of the kids will be there until Christmas Day.
Okay.
So maybe
It's a quiet evening.
a quiet
You
evening.
got
yeah.
a sleigh, reindeer.
Chestnuts roasting on an open
you're gonna
fire.
sing.
Yeah, I'll just
You're gonna
sing to my
sing.
wife and,
Oh, yeah, sure.
and maybe make some spiked eggnog there.
Okay,
And,
all right. That sounds awesome, man. Sounds awesome. Well, we're glad everybody's here on WSIC News Talk now, listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together. We got our friend Jim Lawton on here. Jim is a longtime resident of Statesville, an Army veteran. And Jim, what was the reason? You know, you mentioned you went to Davidson, awesome school, by the way. You went into ROTC. Why'd you choose ROTC? What was your goal there?
When I first got to Davidson, you were required to take ROTC for the first 2 years.
Oh, no kidding.
Well, you don't see that anymore.
Yeah, right.
So everybody in freshman and sophomore took ROTC. When I first went out there, I said, "This is the most Mickey Mouse thing I've ever seen. These people walking around, what have you." And but I took it for 2 years, and then at the end of 2 years, they said, "Well, if you'll stay in, we'll give you $90 a month." And $90 a month was all the spending money you needed back then. This was 1963.
Yeah.
And as a result of all of that, about 85% of the student body took a commission coming out of Davidson.
Okay.
Just about everybody I knew at Davidson went into the Army or
kidding.
Marines,
Right.
but generally it was the Army. So I just kind of fell into it. And my senior year, they offered a ROTC flight program. And you'd come up here, and you got your private pilot's license and see if you had the aptitude and what have you. And so when I went into the Army, you had to have a combat arm, so I was armor, and I went at Fort Knox. But when I was commissioned in '65, there was nothing going on in Vietnam particularly. They had a few folks, I think a few Marines over there. And so they said, well, it's no big deal, you know. I said, well, I'll go in and I'll fly generals around or something like that. That'll be fun. And then the first cab went in.
Right.
And,
yeah.
so when I went into the Army, I went in on orders to Fort Knox, flight school, Vietnam, all on the same orders. So when I went
was
into
flight school at Fort Knox, or was it
no,
down at Fort
I
Rucker
went,
then?
Went to Mineral Wells, Texas for 4 months,
Oh, really?
and went to 4.5 months, went to Fort Rucker for 4.5 months.
Okay.
So it was 9 months. The Army now is 18 months
Yeah.
just for flight school.
Yeah.
They were pumping them out. We didn't get instrument tickets. They were just pumping people out. We were graduating 600 pilots a month
Holy cow.
out of Fort Rucker.
Wow.
Holy smokes!
I mean,
600 pilots a month.
We had more takeoffs and landings, 10 times the takeoffs and landings that O'Hare Airport had.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and no air traffic control.
Wow.
You just look around.
Just
Yeah.
looking around.
You just look around.
Yeah. Oh, there's a guy. I better move.
And
Yeah.
you'd have them midair every now and then.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure. What airframe did you pilot?
Hueys.
Hueys. Okay.
Hueys. So I went. I was married. Lynn and I were married.
Yeah.
My daughter Kelly
Yeah.
was born at Fort Rucker, and a month later I went to Vietnam.
Holy
so she
cow.
was
Oh
a
my
month
gosh.
old when I left.
What unit were you signed to? when
First
you went?
Cav.
You were first Cav as well?
First Cav
No
in
kidding.
Vietnam. Yeah.
That was like the Hal Moore, Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore. That was
that-
his world.
Yeah, that was in '66,
Yep.
maybe, and I went in '67. I knew people who were
No
were
kidding.
still over there that were in that operation.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
In fact, I flew by it a couple of times. Of course,
No kidding.
The hydrang. Yeah.
So I mean, I guess you were doing similar. You were doing infield, taking troops in and pulling troops out.
combat assault.
Yeah.
My first 6 months over there, I flew logistics and some medevac and combat assaults. I was in the thing. In the last 6 months, I was flight leader, so I was leading the flights in on the combat assaults.
Yeah.
Wow.
First 6 months, not a whole lot went on.
Right.
We were in an area that was pretty pacified. Then we went north to replace the Marines who were going into Quezon.
Oh yeah.
All of that was going on when I
Yeah.
was there, and this was in 67,
Right.
68. No, 67.
67.
And we were up around Chulai.
Mm-hmm.
If odd way to remember Chulai, that's where Marical Division got into trouble with My Lai. It was right
Oh,
outside
yeah.
of Chulai.
Wow. Yeah.
But we were north of there and
Okay.
operated, and we that's when everything blew up. It
Yeah.
was getting into the Tet Offensive, and they were building
Yeah,
up.
that was.
So it was a lot more action. Up
You
there.
were there during the Tet Offensive. What was that like? I mean, they were telling you that it was going to be a ceasefire and stand down, and then
I was. We were moving north, and the Cav moved into an area that was about 30 clicks, 20 miles, 25 miles at the most north of Hue. And it was kind of odd because I stayed behind my unit. I was getting short. In fact, I only had about a month to go. And I stayed behind to investigate an accident that we had had. And I came up after my unit had already gone in. And we went into a place called Hue Fubai. And we were there, the CBs were there and what have you. And we were getting rocket attacks into there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, okay, time for y'all head up. And I had lead helicopter, had a couple of helicopters with me. And the guy who had already been up there was leading us up to Camp Evans. Said, hey, you want to ride over and we'll look at the Citadel? We'll go over and Hue. And so we started flying over there, and one of the guys on the radio says, what kind of flag is that flying over the Citadel? It was the day they took Hue.
Oh.
And about that time, they opened up on us, and it was like a shooting gallery, and we got down about 10 feet off the ground, and it didn't get hit, but just getting shot at all the way by, and we got into Camp Evans. So we were there for about I was there for about three weeks before what they call D-roast got out.
Mm-hmm.
We were socked in. It was cold. You don't think of Vietnam as being
Right.
cold.
No.
But it was in the 40s,
Wow.
which doesn't sound bad unless
It's raining.
you're in a tent
Yeah.
yeah.
and there's no heat.
Right.
So we would take C4 and throw it in there. Of course, it burns pretty quick, but you get a little. It doesn't blow up. I mean,
Right.
you just keep throwing it in there.
Yeah.
Didn't change clothes for a month while I was there.
Wow.
And it was, but it was, and then I left from Hue and came back home.
So that was pretty much. You came back from that, and you were like, okay, I don't want to do that anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
In fact, I got home, and and Lynn liked the Army. I did too. But then it was
Some parts of it.
Yeah,
The
had
getting
a lot
shot
of fun.
at parts not
Came
awesome.
back, and I was an instructor pilot at
Yep.
Fort Rucker, and it almost came by to get out. And Lynn said, why don't you extend? Maybe we could stay in for a while. And I said, because I'm not going back to Vietnam. And pilots were on a 12-month turnaround.
Oh,
You'd
yeah.
be back 12 months later. You're back over. I had friends that went 3 times. Nothing like in Afghanistan. People have been 5, 6 times, but it was unusual for somebody to go over there 3 times. But I had.
Yeah, and after a
folks that-
while, you start spinning the cylinder on the revolver, and you got like, hey man, I got a blank
I
that
know,
time,
you
and
can't.
you're like,
Yeah, you're not going to avoid it.
I mean,
forever.
the casualty rates were high. I know. I mean, for
fairly high. My unit, we had about 20 pilots at any one time, and while I was there, we lost 8 of them.
Yeah,
I
wow.
lost 8 pilots.
Yeah.
Equal number, probably more crew members than that.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, I knew guys that rode door gunners and things like that. That was a pretty hairy situation to be in, especially in you're flying low and you're moving slow, and
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you got 1,000 dudes wanting to take you out of this world, and believe
People
me,
paid to shoot you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's exactly
They
right.
shoot you for a living, yeah.
Yeah, that's for
Right.
sure. That's for sure.
And if they shot your helicopter down, they get a bicycle.
oh, no kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Is that's a real thing? They
Oh,
got
yeah.
a bicycle?
They got a bicycle.
Oh, no
If-
kidding.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess that's like
We said, we'll give you a bicycle. How about that?
Yeah, it's like, yes.
You want a bicycle? We'll give you a
we'll
bicycle.
give you a bicycle. You don't have to shoot this whole helicopter down.
Oh
Hey, we
my
got a break
gosh.
coming up here in about 30 seconds, but we're really glad you're with us. You listen to Jim Lawton tell about his time in the Army, and we're going to hear more about what his transition was like. You're listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together, and we're here with old Devil Dog Santa.
Why do you keep calling me Santa?
No, I don't know. I don't know. It
It's-
could be
it's
because
really weird.
you look like Santa. We'll be back here in just a few minutes. Thanks for being here.
Putting the Pieces Back Together with John Gallina and Brad Borders will return after this short break on the new 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
You're a Marine?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was gonna join the Marines, but I passed all my tests.
Right.
Oh,
So you Paris Island?
I am, yeah, Parris Island.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just debating that last week. That a lot of Marines from the Parris Island believe that Marines only come from an island, but
Yeah. What's the other
Deserted
one on the
island.
West Coast? What is that?
that's San Diego, Hollywood Marines there,
Oh, really?
Camp Pendleton.
Camp Pendleton. Yeah,
Is that the basic training, Camp Pendleton for Marines? On the West Coast. Yeah.
on the West Coast. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think they divide it by the Mississippi River, I believe, don't they?
They do. Yeah.
If you're on the east side of the Mississippi, you go to Parris Island, get sand fleas, and
Unless you're a woman, in which case you're going to go to Parris Island because they don't train
no
female
kidding.
recruits
How about
on the
that?
West
How many
Coast, yeah.
women they have go through now?
I don't know now. I think it was when I was in, it was like 93% male.
So there were women going through when you were in?
Oh yeah.
it wasn't
Occasionally.
integrated as far as like in the Army, basic training happens, and males and females in the same company.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
but
that
in the
is
Marine Corps,
Definitely
it's
not
separated
happening.
out.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you even got caught looking at the female recruits, you're.
We had to deal with a lot of that when I was a chaplain in basic training, fraternization between the recruits. and-
Yeah, that just seems like a bad idea to
It
put
was a
them
terrible
together.
idea. You
And
get in a lot of
who's
trouble.
The
Yeah.
Army and their infinite wisdom. That's
Yeah, I would have soldiers come in my office and go, "I'm in love with Private Johnson." I was like, "No, you're not. No,
You're in lust. You're not in
you are-
love.
That's right. You are not in love with Private Johnson.
Oh,
Yeah, you're gonna just get in trouble."
so Paul says that you were going to join the Marines, but you were only Army strong.
Oh, huh. Is that funny? Cockram. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that guy.
Yeah, well, that guy's going to be pretty excited on our next episode, which is not going to be till after the first of the year
know.
on January the 4th.
We
We're
got
gonna
the 36th,
7th.
37th Commandant of the Marine Corps is going to be our guest on the show.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're pretty excited. We got to make
Yeah.
sure
If I
to.
saw a picture of him today. He's a very intense-looking individual.
He is
So-
a pretty intense
You
fellow.
mean he's the commandant now, or
He was the last commandant. He
Just
retired in
retired?
2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
is
where
a-
is he from? How would he end up here?
Oh well, he's gonna zoom in by.
Oh,
he's
in Texas
He's
right
in Texas.
now.
He's in
Yeah.
Austin.
Yeah.
He lives
Yeah.
down in Austin. So
Yeah, he's
I wish I would have known that he was down there because Tammy and I were down in Texas visiting some folks last week, and
so
I
we had
would've
our
gone by to
Zoom
visit
call
him.
right after.
Yeah,
We didn't know that he was. I didn't know he was in Texas until
2 minutes
afterwards.
till we go back. So
Although I'd been super jealous if you got to meet the commandant in
that would have
person.
been cool, man.
Like,
Austin's a crazy cool town. I mean, it's
I
amazing.
like Austin.
Outside of Austin, it's like northwest of Austin. They call it, that's all called the Hill Country, and boy, they're not kidding. I mean, it is. It looks like something out of a cowboy movie out there.
Did you
I
go
mean,
to
it's-
where they swim? What is that place? It's famous in Austin, and they blocked off a stream and made a huge
swimming area?
swimming area.
No, we
And
didn't go
Oh
there.
my gosh!
Yeah, we were
everybody
out.
in Austin goes to the
Yeah, we were outside of town with a friend of ours.
yeah.
1 minute.
1 minute till we go
One
back.
minute.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Did you get down on 6th Street or
We-
9th Street or whatever?
We didn't. I can't take the statute of limitations is not out on the time that I spent down there with my brother, so I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed back down on 6th Street. And plus, I had Tammy with me, and I didn't want her to. I didn't want anybody to recognize me.
You didn't want anybody to recognize you? You know, everywhere I go, Brad, people know who you are. Like, I'll tell them I work for Purple Heart Homes, and they'll be like, "What's that?" And
30
it's
seconds.
like, yeah, oh, I know Brad. Do you know Brad? Oh yeah, I know Brad. Oh yeah.
It's only because I got in trouble a long time
Well,
ago.
yeah,
People
yeah.
remember me. And they go, "Wow, I can't believe he actually has a legitimate job." So
That is
that's
that
it.
is
That's the only reason.
sometimes the
That's the
sentiment.
only reason.
Yeah,
he
it's,
does what now? He helps people. Oh my God.
10 seconds.
All right, 10
Oh my
seconds.
gosh.
Bring us back in, Devin.
Oh yeah. We'll do that.
Hey, we're up 13 on Facebook.
It's Putting the Pieces Back Together with John Gallina and Brad Borders on the new 1059 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. We've been talking to Jim Lawton, Vietnam helicopter pilot, and
Local legend.
local legend, and
Oh, yeah.
and guy that's got all kinds of dirt on Brad.
He does. He does. He got tons of dirt. He got tons of dirt on me.
Although if you
That's why I get wary of bringing my father's friends on the show, like because all they got was my dad's stories about me. You know, I'll tell you this about my dad. My dad has this weird form of amnesia now, right? So my brother and I'll when we all get together, and my brother and I'll talk about the time I got arrested in Chapel Hill or time I got busted in Boone or whatever, and my dad will go, "Oh, you never did anything like that. Oh, you boys were good boys. You boys never got in any trouble." You know,
does he
some
got
parents.
like a selective memory or something?
He does. He only remembers the good stuff, right? Which is awesome. I think we got a caller right now. Holy cow! It's a live radio show.
Are we doing that today?
Yeah, let's do that today.
All right, yeah.
All right, let's put them through. Hey, caller, welcome to Putting the Pieces Back Together. What can we do for you today?
Hey, I appreciate you taking my call. I want to talk to this. I want to talk to Santa.
Oh, Devil Dog Santa, the Santa dog. He's here.
Santa, yeah.
Well, hello.
Santa Claus. Yeah, the guy that was over at PHH Day, and he said he was telling everybody he was Santa Claus. I want to talk to that guy.
Okay, he's on the line.
Well, hi, caller. Yeah. Well, I was just doing a skit. Obviously, I'm just dressed up and I got a hat and such. I'm not really Santa Claus.
What's your beef with the Devil Dog, sir?
Do you have a question?
No, I was just. You just didn't look like Santa Claus to me. I've seen Santa Claus, and I didn't know how far you were carrying this. I was just calling to see.
Were you
Sit on the
calling
throne of
to?
lies.
Were you calling to say that he is not the Santa Claus, and you've seen the real Santa Claus? Is that what you just said?
Oh my gosh!
Yes, I have. I have seen the real Santa. I got dude. There's a guy in the room that was with me, and you should know this. If you're representing Santa Claus, you should at least have some kind of info on this.
I don't.
We met the real Santa
You met the real Santa. Oh yeah.
when we were in Alaska.
I'm just wondering
Did you look? I'm not trying to get on to it. Did you even study for this position at all?
Is there like
do
I didn't know there was like an application to pretend to be Santa Claus
there's
for a
a
day.
school. There's a
is it-
school in Michigan. There's a Santa school in Michigan where you can go learn.
For a
we
whole
know
week.
for a whole week.
They teach
is
you
that
how to be
right?
Santa.
Yeah,
So
Dustin Thompson went there. Our
am
friend
I going to
Dustin.
get arrested next week?
You are
because I have
perpetrating a
committed-
fraud, evidently.
I've
Thank
committed
you,
Santa
caller.
fraud.
That's
On the
Santa
throne of
fraud.
lies.
There it is. We've
I'm
coined a
Santa
new,
fraud today.
Yeah, we've coined a new term. Thank
Here
you,
comes
caller.
Santa fraud. Here comes Santa fraud.
You're not Santa.
You're not Santa. You smell like beef and cheese.
well, thank you, caller, for
Yeah. In case everybody
Pointing it
doesn't
out.
know, the caller that's calling in is our old friend Rob Harrell, Heart Attack Rob, and we love you, Rob. Thank you for calling.
Love you guys.
All right, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Rob.
So Tammy and I did see the real Santa Claus. When we went to Alaska back in 2019. We went to North Pole, Alaska.
That's a
And
place?
That's a real
is.
place,
It's
and
magical.
it's
Wow.
it is. It's magical.
They have reindeer.
They have reindeer, and you can
Santa.
go to Santa's house. You can go to his house, and he's there all the time, and you can go sit on his lap and get your picture made with him, and you can tell him what you want for Christmas. And he
Really?
lives in the North Pole. He
Wow.
lives there.
That's-
And Mrs. Santa's there with him, and he's legit, not Santa fraud.
You are very adamant that this
I'm
is
complete-
the real Santa
he
Claus.
is the real Santa Claus. He lives in the North Pole. I don't know what to tell you. Right?
Well,
His address says North Pole, Alaska. You can send him a card, and it will get to him, and he will read it.
I mean,
Santa fraud.
why don't we get back to our guest?
Yes, let's do that. He's much more interesting.
He is much more interesting.
Hey, before the break, we were talking to Jim. He was telling us about his time in Vietnam and how he survived, and which is a wonderful thing, and I'm glad he did. And decided that after he got back out, he did a little instructing time and decided he didn't want to go back to Vietnam and exited the military. Which brings up this question. I want to know what in the world. You know, I know what transition out of the military looks like, you know, these days, and what it was like for me, and what it was like for me coming home from Iraq, and you know, and how people were thanking me for my service, and that was a different time.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
It was.
Tell us a little bit about that for you.
Well, military wasn't in fashion.
Right.
67 and 68. That's, you only can understand if you experience it. I did not. I mean, I hear all these things. I came home and they called me a baby killer. Nobody called me anything. I mean, it was almost the opposite. Now, I'll give you an example. When I came home, I went back to Georgetown before I went back to Fort Rucker to be an instructor pilot. And my nephew, who was a little tyke, about 4 or 5 years old, his mom said, "Would you mind taking him down and get a haircut?" I said, "Yeah, I'll take him down to the barbershop." So I took him down to the barbershop, and I walked in. The barber looked at me, and he said, "Hey, Jimmy, how you doing?" I said, "I'm doing all right." "Well, I hadn't seen you for a while. Where you been?" I said, "Well, I was in Vietnam for a year." "Well, I bet you're glad you're back." And that was the end of it.
Oh, no kidding.
No
Oh, yeah.
kidding.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was just...
Not what was it like?
No,
you know,
not
did
what
you
was
get
it
shot at?
like.
Yeah,
No. Well, I bet you're
almost
glad to be
in-
back.
Yeah.
But it was the people that would talk to you, and you don't even think about that now. We were only 25 years out of World War II.
That's correct. Yeah.
Korea, we were only about 10, 15. I mean, I served with people who fought in World War II that were still in the unit.
Yeah.
So, you know, you would talk to them, but to me, even World War II was ancient history.
Right.
And it amazes me today that 50 years later, people still talk about Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I guess it's because of all the controversy and all the stuff that surrounded it. But
Yeah, it was funny. I met a Vietnam veteran up in Taylorsville at a dance recital, and I had on a ball cap that looked like a military, and we got to talk, and we found out we were both veterans. And I was going to take Tammy and the kids up to D.C. for Memorial that day, and I told him, I was like, I've never seen the wall, you know, and he was like, I haven't either. I said, "You've never been?" He said, "No, I won't go." He said, I got too many friends on that wall, you know, and it was just too painful for him to even go up there. And I think the reason we, because we help so many Vietnam veterans at Purple Heart Homes, and I've met so many, I think that it's almost like there was never any closure for a lot of those guys, right? It just never, it felt like the war just kind of faded away, and it's very similar to what happened to us, you know, that went to Iraq and Afghanistan. It's almost like there was never any closure. We're still trying to figure that out. You know, what does that look like? You know, and
I think that has to do with the nature of how those wars went. I mean, they were just big, long engagements that didn't never really go anywhere. Whereas World War II, World War I, there was a definitive end.
There was VE Day and VJ Day.
So
right,
I mean, when did Vietnam War end? I mean, it didn't end. It just
Well,
kind of
yeah, I mean, I
we
think-
pulled our people out.
I think everybody's image of the Vietnam War ending is the helicopter on top of the building, right, or the helicopter being pushed off into the ocean. right?
Yeah.
That old footage. So, we got a break coming up in about a minute. When we come back, I want to talk about what transition out of the military felt like for you, and what was the dynamics with your family. We'll talk a little bit about that when we get back. So we'll also be back here with the Santa Fraud. He's here,
Santa Fraud.
and Mrs. Giggles is here. So Mrs. Giggles and I are looking forward to Christmas. So very much so. And John's not with us. He's going to be on his way to Las Vegas tomorrow for a secret mission, right? So it's a pretty big deal. And we're really glad you're here listening today. This is Putting the Pieces Back Together. You can find out more about Purple Heart Homes at phhusa.org and see what we do for veterans each and every day. Thanks for hanging around. We'll see you in a few minutes.
More Putting the Pieces Back Together with John Gallina and Brad Borders coming up on the new 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Was it a ski?
Yeah, I think so.
We're
Yeah.
live back on the radio. Well, not on the radio.
We're
I'm
on
sorry, Facebook.
Yeah, we're on Facebook. You can continue on with that
yeah,
conversation.
you don't have to.
So, if you were watching on
Well,
Facebook.
we were up in Boone and looking for a place to eat breakfast, so we go over to the Waffle House and we're sitting there eating, and I looked over, and there was this guy with a Purple Heart Homes cap on.
Oh, no kidding.
So I went over and started chatting with him.
Yeah.
It was that guy.
No kidding.
Yes. It
Oh,
was that
man.
guy. He had
Really?
someone in his family kid played soccer, and they were up for some big tournament in Boone, and
No
we sat
kidding.
there and chatted for a good while.
Well,
was
I mean, he
quite a
did
guy.
us a solid, man.
That's what I
that was a
understand.
solid deal.
And I asked about it, and he told me his name. He said, "Just remember ski."
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was an amazing deal. I mean, we got into that property's 13 acres, 70,000 square feet
Sure,
of floor space,
yeah.
and he sold it to us for half price.
Yeah.
And
Half price then, and now that it's worth exponentially more.
Oh my God! Yeah, I
because-
mean, with the renovations that we've done on
Right.
it, put a new roof on it. In fact, we had a gentleman stop by the other day. He's in the roofing business, and he manufactures metal roofing, but it's also simultaneously solar panels.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's,
Embedded
It's pretty cool.
Yes.
the roof.
Yes.
So you get a new roof and you
And you
generate
get-
energy
yeah.
at the same time.
I
you
told
know.
Paul to reserve one of those in case Lynn kicked me out. I was a
There-
veteran.
yeah.
Maybe I could qualify one of
That's
those teeny
right.
homes.
That's right. Yeah, we'll put get an application in.
Oh,
Damn sure.
man. I'm sure that's not going to happen.
Yeah, be put on his application. Lynn kicked me out.
I mean, she's put up with you this long. I mean, she's probably not willing to train
Only 58
another
years.
one. Yeah, 50,
How long you been
wow,
married?
58 years.
58.
That's
Holy
that
cow.
is a tremendous accomplishment
Oh,
these
yeah.
days.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, 58 years.
1
That's,
minute.
One
I asked somebody that I knew, and they were talking to him, and they said, "Well, what do you attribute your long marriage to?" He said, "I didn't think I had a choice." That was somebody tells me. I said, "No, that's
Yeah,
what I signed up for."
That's what I signed up for. I think somebody asked Billy Graham and his wife Ruth said they asked Ruth one time so Ruth, have you ever considered divorce? She said no, never once have I thought about divorce. I thought about murder a lot of times, but never thought about divorce.
I heard one guy, they asked him about his marriage, and he said, "What do you attribute it to?" He says, "I always call before I come home."
That's right.
I already catch her. That's right.
That's
I
exactly.
always call before I come
I'm
home.
on my way home.
Oh,
I start
gosh.
remembering that.
I don't like the
Mike's off.
implications
Mike's
here.
off.
Putting the Pieces Back Together continues now. Here are your hosts, John Gallina and Brad Borders on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes on WSIC News Talk Now. Why are you trying to steal my $20?
On my $20. Santa fraud.
We already confirmed you're in arrears and not getting any money.
Still don't know what that means. If Jim Lawton hadn't said that was a real word, I wouldn't have believed it. So.
Oh my gosh.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us again. We appreciate everybody listening today here on News Talk Now. And see, I snuck that in.
I do, but you're not getting paid.
Oh, okay. All right. So, we've had a great guest on the show today, Jim Lawton. I've known Jim all my life, and he and my dad and mom were good friends, and really glad you're here. And we were talking a little bit before the break. He was sharing about his experience coming back from Vietnam and what that was like, and the difference between what it looks like now when folks come back. And we were comparing some of the similarities between veterans coming from Vietnam and veterans coming home from Iraq and Afghanistan, with the vagueness and ambiguousness of the ending of those conflicts. And Jim, I know that, as I'm transitioning out of the military, I'm retiring from the reserves in just a couple months, and spent 20 years doing this. And but when I came off active duty, it was weird, right? Going back into a world where everybody wore different clothes, was there some weirdness involved when you and Lynn, y'all made your decision? It's like, okay, I don't want to fly helicopters for the Army anymore. I want to do something normal. But did it feel normal after doing all that?
It probably did. I was one of the fortunate ones. I came back unscathed, physically and mentally. My experience in Vietnam was probably the best experience I've had in my life, as far as growing up, having tremendous amount of responsibility and realizing you could do it. I remember interviewing for the bank. I was a history major, so I go to the bank and I want to get in commercial lending. Right. And the guy was talking to me. He said, "Well, do you think you'll be able to handle this kind of stuff and this kind of stuff?" And I said, "You're not going to be shooting at me, are you?" And he said, "Well, no." And I said, "I can handle anything. You're not shooting at me. Handle some things if you are shooting at me." So,
that's right.
So it, but it gave me a tremendous amount of confidence.
I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. I felt like that. I feel like that a lot of times too. That the military, my time that overseas, and my time in position, in times of crisis, and if you can respond in the midst of a crisis, you can do about anything in this world,
And if you go through that, nothing is that big a deal, afterwards.
Right. Yeah. Everything's gravy after that.
Everything's gravy. You didn't think you're going to live that long anyway.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. That's interesting.
I mean, I had a couple of times I thought I was going to get killed. I decided this is it.
Sure.
And then you kind of get through that and what have you.
I flew on a couple of helicopters with guys.
You
that
probably
flew,
thought you were going to die.
I thought they were going to kill me too. Right? I was like, I'm sure that dude knows what he's doing.
That's just because you're afraid of heights.
Well, I am.
They love to get the new guys. They like to scare them, show off. They show off and do all this stuff.
I especially would get a little nervous if I saw like a CW4 flying.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody that's like, because that dude's been doing it a long time. And I would get nervous because they would kind of grin as a little bit as you got on. And
for the layman, CW4, that's Chief Warrant Officer 4.
That's correct.
And
been around a long time.
Been around a minute. I did fly on a Black Hawk with a CW5.
Oh, goodness. I've never seen one of them.
Yeah, they don't even have the little dots. It's just a straight line, right?
Right.
And I flew on a Black Hawk with him in 2004 or 5, and I got to talking with him before, and he had flown Hueys in Vietnam.
Really?
Yeah, and here he was flying us dudes around.
I had guys in my unit flew for me that were 19 years old.
Holy smokes. 19 years old.
They were in Vietnam. They were 19 years old.
Holy wow.
In fact, one of the best pilots we had in the unit was 19.
No kidding.
But you got a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
And instead of a Trans Am, which is what they had.
Right.
He's got a helicopter.
That's right.
And they'll
right.
try to do things. And
Yeah. I mean,
oh, yeah, but they were good.
I don't know
They
if I
were
want my
good.
son flying in charge of
Wow.
a helicopter.
19. Isn't that something?
I've got a getting ready to be 18-year-old daughter, and I can't imagine.
You know, the human brain is not developed completely until you're 25.
Yeah.
I don't know everybody at PHH. I'm pretty sure about a half of us never developed.
Well,
completely.
yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
That is true. Holy cow, man. Wow.
You know, I can at least speak for myself. I reckon.
So, Jim, as a veteran, are you involved in any veteran organizations, or do you ever reach back and,
Oh,
and
my
talk
gosh.
to some of the guys that you served
All the
with?
time. Talked
No
to
kid-
two of them yesterday.
No kidding.
I had about 6 of the guys that flew with me and my platoon warrant officers,
Yeah.
and one gunship pilot who was a captain when we were there.
Yeah.
And we get together
No
every
kidding.
year or so,
No
talk
kidding.
on the telephone.
That is
Yep.
awesome.
And they're all fine. Some of them stayed in for
Yep.
a while.
Really?
The gunship pilot retired,
Yeah.
military, and we all seem to be doing okay.
After you, it's funny how we ran into an Army buddy of mine when we were down in Texas and had dinner with him and his wife. And I haven't seen Frank in, I don't know, it's got to be 13 or 14 years, right? And it's funny how like that time evaporates.
Oh, yeah.
When you get back together.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and
Just-
then the stories and the people you remember, it's like it all happened yesterday.
Our war stories get better and better.
There were
get-
13 men.
Oh,
There were
yeah.
27.
Remember when you turned the helicopter upside down? And, oh, yeah.
Jim,
I
you
remember
were the
that.
best pilot I've ever seen.
Oh, my
Yeah,
God, you
yeah.
were good, yes.
Yeah.
But
my
we have a good time. We get together.
That is fantastic. That is wonderful. So, I know you stay connected with them. Have you had like conversations with your family about your time in service? Do you do that?
You hear all these things about, well, he doesn't want to talk about it. I'll
Yeah.
talk about it all day long if you
Yeah.
want. If you ask me, if
Yeah.
you want to talk about it.
Right.
Actually, my family have
Not
never,
interested.
except I took Kirk back to Vietnam
No kidding.
Wait,
Yeah.
you went back to
in
Vietnam?
'96.
No kidding.
Oh man, Kirk
We
was a young
backpacked-
fella then. Yeah.
Well, he was in his 20s, and we
Yeah.
backpacked around Vietnam.
No kidding.
Yeah,
I bet
yeah.
that was.
It
something.
was incredible. I saw only one evidence of the fact that we had been in Vietnam, and that was an old Army water tank sitting on the side of the road.
No kidding.
Cameron Bay, you've heard about that
Yeah.
huge installation.
And Kirk's your son.
Son.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Cameron Bay, there wasn't a building left on Cameron Bay. It was just a wide open. And we used to paint things on rocks up on top of the mountain.
Right.
In fact, I remember LZ Playboy was a Playboy bunny painted up there, or a calf patch.
Right.
They must have paid people to go up there with little knives and stuff and chip that.
Scrape it off.
Wow.
None of that.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, did you go back to some of the places
Yes,
where? I
yes.
mean, you went back to where you had actually
Right.
been.
We, of course, it was hard for me to recognize because I didn't.
Sure.
I flew over it.
Yeah.
But there was one place called LZ Uplift, and we were going up, and we turned, and I said, "This is familiar." I said, "Would you pull over there?" And we had this guy who had worked with us in Vietnam, not me, but he was and spoke English. So he pulled over, and he went over, and he asked the lady who was selling fruit and stuff, and he came back, and she said the helicopters were right over there.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, said she was 16.
She remembered.
Yeah. So,
Oh, my
you know, in 96, what is
Yeah.
it? It wasn't that long.
Yeah.
after.
Right. Yeah.
But everybody you ran into just loved Americans. Isn't that crazy?
It's
But
really-
half of the population in 96 had been born after the war.
Right.
And you can imagine a kid, that's ancient history.
Yeah. Sure.
And they want to
Yeah.
talk to Americans because they want to learn American
Yeah.
accents.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is amazing.
You're like a little celebrity
It
over
was,
there.
it was a good trip.
Oh
Good
man,
trip.
but that was cool for Kirk too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, the old man took me back over to where he went
Yeah,
to war.
how
you
about
know.
that?
How about that? That is something else, man. That's
Well,
really good.
You have been such a fantastic guest
Oh,
today, Jim.
Yeah, we're really excited.
And,
So glad you came. Man.
And
I'm
we're going to
looking
have to have
forward
you
it.
back on. We were talking about having him on with Martin so they can
that's
talk
You don't
about.
want that.
That's
You won't
trouble.
get an
Yeah.
you won't get a word in edgewise.
That's okay.
When Martin and I start telling war stories, you
Oh, well, gosh.
Yeah.
We've had Martin on. He's quite the talker.
He is
he is a
quite the
talker.
talker.
Yeah.
He'll tell you a story.
So this is the last episode of the year. I want to let everybody know that we will be back January 4th
Yeah.
with 37th Commandant of the Marine Corps,
I don't even know if I can even be
General
in the...
Miller. And
gonna be great,
It
man.
is going to be great. He is by far probably our most prestigious guest that we've had.
Other than Jim?
Other than aside from present company,
He outranks me
And,
just a little bit.
That's right.
and Military Makeover will be in town in January. Lots of stuff coming on.
Yep.
So catch us in the new year.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Man, God bless all of you. We appreciate you. Thanks for helping us make 2023 a great year.
Yeah, absolutely. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next year.
Happy New Year.
You've been listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together, brought to you by Purple Heart Homes. Please consider making a donation to this worthwhile cause dedicated to improving the lives of veterans one home at a time by visiting purplehearthomesusa.org. Join us again next Thursday at 3 p.m. for Putting the Pieces Back Together on WSIC News Talk Now.
Happy holidays.